and welcome back to the channel. I hope that everybody is doing well today. If you are new here, then hi, my name is Brittany and I am a nurse practitioner. I am also the creator of the Brittany Holzbeck NP review. It is a complete AANP and ANCC review course, the most comprehensive and affordable on the market, and it is accredited through the AANP, so now nurses and nurse practitioners alike can actually take the course and collect continuing education credits, which we know we all need to maintain our licensure. The entire course is available on my Patreon. Make sure you read the tiers and what each one entails because they are a little bit different before purchasing them, but I'll have everything linked in the description box below so you can go ahead and check it out. So for today's video, I'm going to be doing a Q&A, all things nurse practitioner. I asked you guys to head over to my Instagram. On my stories, I was doing a Q&A, and honestly, you guys asked me a ton of really good questions, and so we're just going to get into it. Before we do, if you can go ahead and do me a favor, like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. All right, so I've got my phone here with me, and we're going to go through the questions one by one. And I'm going to try and make these succinct and brief. We'll see how I do. I'm a little chatty, but I'm gonna try my best. So the first question is tips to lower anxiety when starting as a new nurse practitioner in an urgent care. I have notes here on my laptop, so I'm looking at those because I wanted to make sure that I answered these really thoroughly for you guys. So my tips to help lower your anxiety would be make sure that you have comprehensive resources. When I started as a new NP in urgent care, I used the EMRA antibiotic guide, Hippocrates, Up to Date, and then the guidelines for the family nurse practitioner. All of them, besides the guidelines for the family nurse practitioner, were apps on my phone, making it really easy to just pull it out when I need it, really quick and easy. And then make sure before you go to start your position, you actually learn these resources and how to navigate them, how to use them, so you're not cracking open the book on your first day. Have a phone a friend. So I definitely recommend, if it's possible for you, to have at least one person that you could reach out to via text or phone call or whatever, some kind of person that you could consult if you get stumped while you're at work. It will put your mind at ease to have someone if you need it. The next tip I have would be to watch my videos here on YouTube. I would just say binge watch all of the material, and if you want to invest a little money, you can go on to my Patreon account. I have a $5 tier which goes over lots of case studies and visual aids. The $60 tier is the one that is eligible for continuing education credits. But if you want to pay a little money, you can go on my Patreon. That will be a very useful tool for you starting as a new NP in urgent care. But if you don't want to, I have tons of stuff here for free on YouTube, and honestly, it's really tailored to working in urgent care. The last tip would be to just give yourself grace. We all have a first day. We all start somewhere. Each day you practice, you're going to get better. You're going to become more comfortable in your role. You'll start seeing the same stuff.
Trust me.
You'll get a lot more comfortable. So we all start somewhere. Just give yourself grace, give yourself time. Check back in 6 months and see how much more comfortable you are and how much of your anxiety is already relieved with just that short amount of time. My next question is, would you feel comfy as a new NP in an office as the only provider? If you don't know, I often was alone, brand new, right out the gate as a new NP. It did not make me feel super good. I would say ideally, it's not the best, but it is doable. If that is the situation that you're in and you are going to be practicing alone as a new NP, I would recommend a couple of things that might make it a little bit easier. One, what's your orientation like? That's gonna make a huge difference. If you get ample amount of time to get familiar with the office, the charting system, the flow of the office, that will make your working as the sole provider easier as a new NP if you get some good orientation time. Another thing is, obviously it depends on your previous experience, whether it be your previous experience as a nurse, your clinicals that you had. Those types of experiences will also contribute to how, I guess, comfy you are working as a sole provider in an office as a new NP. And then finally, if you are going to be working as a new NP and alone, definitely know who your point of contact is, who you can reach out to if you get stumped or have a question. In my situation, I had my overseeing physician available by text or call anytime. He was really good about answering, And so when I did feel like I had a question, I knew that I had someone to reach out to. So make sure that you have that in line if you're going to be working alone as a new NP. Next is advice for a preceptorship interview. It's on Wednesday. Hopefully the Wednesday coming up and not the Wednesday that just passed. I'm sorry if I missed your deadline, but I still think it's a really good question. I'm assuming you're interviewing with a possible preceptor. And so some tips for that. So number one, go there expressing gratitude. I precepted a couple of students and it's more work. I love my students and I would do it again in a heartbeat. I loved them, but it is more work. Instead of just taking care of your patients, you're also committing to educating your student. And so go there grateful that they are considering taking you on as a student, and then really express your willingness to learn. Definitely seem eager. That is going to look really good to your potential preceptor, is that you just want to learn. And then find out from them what they expect of you and your clinical. So for example, a lot of times in my clinical, I would shadow for a week or two, see how they do things, how they interview with the patient, how they do their exams, see their flow of their practice, and then slowly I would start to build on my autonomy and my practice. And so I would start going in after a couple of weeks of shadowing, and I would interview the patient. I would do a brief exam and then go back and present my patient to my preceptor. But just find out from them when you're doing an interview with your possible preceptor what they expect of you and how they would like it to go. Also, I think too, it'd be beneficial for you to have a resume available and handy in case they ask for it, and so they can go over with you, your previous experience. Okay, so the next question was tips for looking for jobs as a new grad. I'm looking for a supportive environment. Yes, that's huge. I hope that you do find a career as a new NP with a supportive environment. That would make the transition so much easier. A couple of tips I do have though for getting employment as a new NP, as a new grad without experience. One, obviously have your resume updated, have a cover letter updated. I will actually go ahead and upload onto my Patreon under the $5 tier a copy of my resume as a new grad, and then a copy of my resume with more experience. So you can kind of see what I included. It's really important that you put on there, obviously, your experience as a nurse, but also all of your experiences in your clinicals and all of the skills and knowledge that you learned there. Sure, you haven't had work experience as a nurse practitioner, but you've had experience in clinicals, and so those should definitely be included in your resume. If you want to see again the examples, I'll have them on my Patreon. Another huge tip obviously would be to use your network. So obviously your previous clinical sites, reach out to those, see if they are hiring your previous work as a nurse. Use all of your connections and resources that you've already established and see if any of those are hiring for new grad nurse practitioners. And that's why it's so important to really present yourself in a professional way every time you go to your clinicals, because all of those could be potential places of employment for you in the future. Another option, of course, is using those various online sites. So for example, LinkedIn is a really good platform to find work. Indeed, you have to be careful, they can spam you a little bit, but you can also find legitimate work there on Indeed as well. Also, Facebook groups. It's a really good resource available to you where you can network with other people and potentially find employment there. I have a private Facebook group, free to join obviously. There is about 6,000+ people in the group, and I see people post on there that they're looking for employment or that they have employment available. So if you want to join that Facebook group, and I'm sure there are others out there, but I'll have mine linked in the description box below. Join it, network. And that kind of ties into the next tip too, is join professional organizations and go to conferences. Another great opportunity for you to show up professional, have a resume handy, and network some more and hopefully find yourself employment as a new grad. So next question is, can you recommend a company to get private medical insurance when not offered through your employer? I took this as not like health insurance for yourself, but more like liability insurance. Hopefully I am interpreting that correctly. I'm not going to pretend that I am by any means an expert in this area. I have not actually purchased private medical insurance myself, but I did take the opportunity just to research for you a little bit. If you go to aanpinsurance.com, and I'll have it here on the screen, it looks like they recommend and they work with Pro Liability, which is a professional liability insurance for healthcare providers, nurse practitioners, and it looks like the reviews for it are really good. The Pro Liability had a 4.7 out of 5 stars out of 4,180 reviews, and I even looked on like Reddit and stuff, and they were talking pretty highly of it. Another one that was pretty popular was Nurses Service Organization, or NSO. Again, another one that people were speaking highly of. That one had 4.8 out of 5 stars out of 2,700 reviews. So not quite as many, but still quite a lot. So that's what I found doing a little quick research. If you're watching this and you use one of these private medical insurances and you have had good experience, any recommendations, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. Also, I could even do a poll on my Instagram stories and just see what people have to say. Maybe somebody else has some good advice. And so, but yeah, otherwise you could look into Pro Liability or the NSO. All right, next question. Fellowship in urgent care is a new grad NP, prior medical, surgical, and ORRN experience. So I'm thinking they're saying, like, do you think it's appropriate to work in an urgent care or do a fellowship in an urgent care when their prior experience was med surg and OR? And so, I mean, I think it's doable. I saw people be very successful working as new grad NPs in the urgent care, and their experience was med surg. I also saw people really struggle. The people that struggled, it was because they had a hard time transitioning into that focused assessment role. Urgent care, ER, all of those acute emergent services, it's a very focused assessment. You're focusing on the problem at hand. You're not doing a deep, thorough, multiple tests exam. Urgent care is quick and fast paced. So it's doable. I definitely think it's doable, but you just have to be able to change hats a little bit. Again, I think that transitioning from ER to urgent care is probably the easiest transition. But if you go in knowing that this has to be very focused and prep yourself for that, I think that you can be successful, and I have seen. Hopefully that answers that question. I don't know how good of an answer that was, but I tried. The next question is, I'm overdue to take boards. I have a toddler and I'm working full-time. How do I prep? I would definitely recommend that you watch one of my previous videos. I give 10 steps how to be successful on your boards. I'll link it in the description box below. Obviously, I do recommend my course. I have a complete course again for the AANP and the ANCC. It's 12 plus hours of system-based lecture, a 3-hour pharmacology crash course, 100 plus review questions, dump sheets for each system, downloadable PDF study guides. It's very comprehensive and definitely everything that you would need to be successful. On top of picking out a good review course, I always just recommend questions, lots and lots and lots of practice questions. I personally did LEAK and FNP Mastery. I've also heard really good things about board vitals, so it's something you can look into, but really that's what you need. You need a comprehensive review course. You need lots of questions. I say usually about 4 weeks of just strict studying and you should be successful. The next question is, do you have any tips on accepting new job offer for a new grad? For example, contract, salary, etc. And so this is obviously a really good question. I feel like I saw a couple of these as far as like accepting a new job. I think it's really important, you know, when you're accepting a new position as a new grad, advocating for yourself, making sure that you are not taken advantage of. Do your research, find out what nurse practitioners in your area make, what is a reasonable salary, especially if you're doing straight salary versus any kind of bonuses. If you're doing straight salary, make sure that they are not lowballing you, because you will oftentimes work more hours than you're contracted to work with charting or making phone calls. And so if you're doing a straight salary, there's a lot of unpaid time. And so that is something that I would definitely discuss with them when you are doing your interview and potentially taking a new position, is admin time. That is huge. Admin time is like what time you have where you're paid, where you're finishing your charting, where you're making callbacks, where you're catching up in between patients. Everybody should get admin time, and so that's something you need to talk about, especially if you are taking a straight salary. And so if they do offer you something, it's very, very acceptable to make a counter offer. And they usually say it's appropriate to counter offer with a 10 to 15% increase in what they offered you. The worst thing that can happen is that they say no. Typically, and hopefully, they kind of meet you somewhere in the middle. And then definitely, 6 months to a year, you should be coming up for a raise, and never be afraid to speak up for yourself and advocate for yourself and getting that raise, because if you won't, no one will. But yeah, so when you're accepting a new job, ask questions too. So like, what is your orientation going to look like? Like, what kind of support will you have? What are your benefits? What is your PTO? Again, admin time. Admin time is huge. And then anyone that has, in their contract some kind of strict non-compete clause, so you can't work X amount of miles for 5+ years, whatever, that's a huge red flag. And so I would be on the lookout for that as well. All right, so the next question. Best pharmacology course my school did me wrong. You know, I never took a pharmacology course myself. In fact, when I took a review course when I was studying for boards, I really felt like it was lacking in pharm. I do have a pharmacology crash course available on my Patreon if it's something you want to look into. I would say that my course, though, it's not so much like pharmacodynamics, pharmacokinetics, anything like that. It's more like real practice as far as like first line, second line treatments for the most common diagnoses. I don't know of others though, so I can't speak on that because that's something that I never took. I just religiously studied pharm myself because I found pharm to be tricky, but also extremely important to your role. And so I definitely think that it is an area that you want to focus in on. Obviously, one, when you're going to take your boards, but also two, as far as practice. So yeah, if you want to check out my pharmacology crash course, it's like a little over 3 hours long. It's definitely some good information there. Again, like I said though, not like the molecular makeup of anything. It's more like real world applications. Next question. This is kind of a long one. It came up in like a bunch of different boxes. It's been about 4 months since I passed my exam. I feel like I forgot everything already. Do you have a recommendation on how you keep up with your knowledge? I'll just stop it there. Do you have a recommendation on how you keep up with your knowledge? I know it's cheesy, but like my tagline that I end all my videos in, learn something new every day. I think that is huge. If you don't use it, you lose it. And so really every day, challenge yourself to learn something new, reinforce knowledge that you already know. And then, you know, also listening to a podcast. There is a podcast called Curbsiders, which is really good for practicing. Also, again, my Patreon, I'm done saying that, or like my YouTube, or you can find other YouTube channels here. I know like Dr. Mike has some really cool, interesting stuff. I mean, nowadays with all of the social media, like the Lady Spine Doc or whatever, she's on like TikTok and stuff. She does lots of case studies. Find different avenues to just keep yourself learning new stuff every day, keeping you engaged. I think that's a really good way to keep up with your knowledge and just keep you learning. Again, like I said, learn something new every day, especially when working in medicine. That is so important. All right, well, I think that's going to be it. If I missed any of your questions, I am so sorry. Go ahead and leave them in the comments below, and maybe I'll do another Q&A in the future. I'll come back to the comments if anyone leaves me any questions. Hopefully my answers were helpful to you. Make sure, again, like I said, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. It's a free way to help me out. Again, my Patreon and everything that entails will be linked in the description box below, and a bunch of other stuff that I talked about already on this video. Otherwise, I wish you guys nothing but the best. Don't forget to learn something new every day, and I'll talk to you soon.